The incantation tasted like ash and regret, which meant Constantine was doing it right. In the damp basement of a condemned Gotham tenement, surrounded by candles that flickered with colors no fire should produce, John Constantine traced the final sigil with blood heat. Rather not think too hard about acquiring. The symbols crawled across cracked concrete like living things, hungry and writhing, reaching toward the circle he'd spent 3 hours perfecting. He needed information. Something was moving in Hell's lower hierarchies. Whispers of gates and keys and hands that could unmake worlds. The usual demonic contacts weren't talking, which meant either they didn't know, or they were too terrified to say. So Constantine did what he always did when the easy roads closed. He took the stupid one. Venite, Prince Appease Inferni, he muttered around his cigarette, feeling the words pull at something deep in reality's fabric. Show me what you're hiding. Show me the universe hiccuped. That was the only way to describe it. For one infinite instant, Constantine felt the walls between dimensions stretch like old canvas. Felt something massive and impossible. Try to squeeze through a hole barely large enough for a rat. The candles exploded into pillars of flame 20 feet high. The sigils on the floor blazed white hot. Then wrong. Colors that belonged in fever dreams and madmen's paintings. Reality bent, snapped, and something very large crashed through. Constantine's carefully constructed, summoning circle with all the grace of a freight train hitting a brick wall. When the smoke cleared and Constantine's ears stopped ringing, he found himself staring at approximately 250 pounds of red-skinned, 7-foot-tall demon with a stone right hand the size of a small car and an expression of supreme irritation. The demon, no, not quite a demon, something else. Something off in ways Constantine's magical senses couldn't quite categorize, sat up from the crater his arrival had made in the concrete floor. He wore a long coat, carried what looked like an enormous revolver, and had filed down horn stumps protruding from his forehead. Most notably, he had a lit cigar clenched between his teeth that had somehow survived interdimensional transit. Crap, the red giant muttered, his voice a gravelly rumble. He looked around at the ruined summoning circle. The occult paraphernalia, Constantine's stunned expression. Not again. Constantine, who prided himself on maintaining composure during apocalyptic events, managed 4 words, "You're not from around here." The demon thing pulled himself to his feet with a long-suffering sigh, brushing concrete dust from his coat. His golden eyes fixed on Constantine with weary recognition. Not of John specifically, but of the type. Let me guess. Summoning spell? Needed information from Hell? Got way more than you bargained for. He took a long drag on his cigar. Yeah, I know the drill. I was aiming for a minor duke of the 7th circle, Constantine said slowly, his magical senses working overtime trying to categorize what stood before him. Demonic heritage, absolutely, but twisted through something else. Something that made his teeth ache when he looked too closely at that stone hand. Not, whatever you are. Hellboy. The name was delivered with resigned familiarity. And before you ask, yes, it's my actual name. No, I didn't pick it. Long story involving Nazis, a lot of fire, and a well-meaning professor. He looked down at his stone right hand, flexing fingers that should have been impossible. As for what I am, hell if I know. No pun intended. Constantine's mind was already racing through possibilities, none of them good. A demon he'd never heard of, wearing a name like a bad joke, with a hand that radiated power, older than anything Constantine had encountered in 3 decades of magical screw-ups, and his summoning circle, carefully designed to punch through to DC's Hell, to the domains of Naren or the First, of the Fallen or any of the dozens of demon lords who played politics in the infernal hierarchies, had instead grabbed something from somewhere else entirely. We have a problem, Constantine said, which was his way of saying, we're probably all going to die horribly. Yeah, I got that. Hellboy examined the ruined sigils, the occult symbols that still smoked faintly on the walls. His expression shifted from irritation to concern. These markings, they're similar to what I know, but different. Like someone took the alphabet I learned and rearranged all the letters. He looked at Constantine with sudden intensity. What dimension is this? Dimension? Constantine lit a fresh cigarette with shaking hands. Mate, you're in Gotham City, New Jersey. Earth. The only Earth. Far as most people know, though after the last few crises. Who can bloody say for sure? He paused. Why? Where are you from? Before Hellboy could answer, a sound echoed through the basement, leathery wings and scraping claws, moving fast through the tenement's upper floors. Constantine's wards, already weakened by the botched summoning, screamed warnings directly into his hindbrain. Something had noticed the dimensional breach. Something hungry. That's not good, Hellboy observed with the calm of someone who'd faced similar situations many times before. He pulled the enormous revolver from his coat. Constantine noted it was modified, covered in occult symbols that didn't quite match any tradition he recognized. What you got? Demons? Vampires? Please tell me it's not fish people. I hate fish people. Demons? Probably. Constantine was already sketching hasty protection sigils in the air, his fingers trailing green light, the kind attracted to interdimensional breaches like flies to honey. And now that you're here, every hell-touched bastard in Gotham's going to come sniffing. The ceiling exploded. 3 creatures dropped into the basement. Humanoid, but wrong. Skin like burned leather, eyes like hot coals, mouths full of too many teeth. Lesser demons, foot soldiers of hell's hierarchy, but fast and vicious. They moved with predatory intelligence, circling the 2 men, hissing words in Aramaic that made the air taste like copper. Hellboy's response was immediate and practical. He shot the closest one in the face. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The demon's head snapped back, ichor spraying, and it crumpled. The other 2 hesitated, not out of fear. Constantine realized with sinking dread, but calculation. They were assessing this new player, trying to understand what he was. Okay, Hellboy said conversationally, leveling his gun at the second demon. So we're doing this. Fine. He glanced at Constantine. You might want to stand back. What happened next would have impressed even Batman if the Dark Knight had been watching from the shadows, which, knowing Gotham, he very well might have been. Hellboy moved with brutal efficiency, closing the distance to the second demon before it could react. His stone right hand came up in a devastating uppercut that lifted the creature off its feet and sent it crashing through a support pillar. The third demon lunged at his back, claws extended, and Hellboy spun with his coat flaring, catching the attack on his stone forearm. The claws skittered off like nails on granite. His follow-up punch caved in the demon's chest with a sound like breaking pottery. The second demon, recovering, opened its mouth impossibly wide. Green fire poured out. Hellfire, Constantine recognized, the kind that burns souls instead of flesh. It washed over Hellboy like a wave, and Hellboy walked through it. The flames parted around him, slid off his skin like water off oiled leather. He reached through the inferno, grabbed the demon by its throat with his stone hand, and squeezed. There was a wet cracking sound. The hellfire guttered out. Silence fell, broken only by Hellboy's steady breathing and the sound of something dripping. He holstered his gun, straightened his coat, and located his cigar where it had fallen during the fight. Still lit. He put it back in his mouth. So, he said, turning to Constantine, you were saying something about a problem? Constantine stared at the carnage. 3 lesser demons. Creatures that usually required extensive ritual preparation to banish. Scattered like broken toys. The red giant hadn't even broken a sweat. More importantly, Hellfire hadn't touched him. That shouldn't have been possible. Even half-demons could be burned by their own kind's flames. Whatever Hellboy was, it was something Constantine had never encountered. Right, Constantine managed. Yeah, problem. Specifically, he gestured at the gaping hole in the ceiling, through which Gotham's perpetually overcast sky was visible. Every magical entity in the city just felt that dimensional breach, which means we're about to have company. The kind that'll make those 3 look like warm-up acts. Hellboy looked up at the sky, then at Constantine, then at his stone right hand. He sighed a deep, world-weary sound that spoke of too many apocalypses narrowly averted, and too many cigars interrupted. This is going to be one of those nights, isn't it? Mate, Constantine said, already sketching a portal spell that would get them out of this death trap in Gotham. It's always one of those nights. Welcome to the DC universe. Try not to end the world. That, Hellboy said with grim humor, is all I ever try to do. High above Gotham, in the Gothic spires of Wayne Manor, sophisticated sensors registered an energy signature that matched nothing in Batman's extensive databases. Magical energy, certainly, but twisted through something unknown. Something that made the Batcomputer's algorithms stutter and recalculate. Bruce Wayne's eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. Something new had arrived in his city. Something powerful. He would need to investigate. In the House of Mystery, which existed in all dimensions simultaneously and none at all, Zatanna Zatara felt a shiver run through the building's mystical foundations. A door that hadn't existed a moment ago appeared in the hallway, covered in symbols she almost recognized. Almost. The house was trying to show her something important. And in Gotham's East End, in a bar that catered to the damned and the desperate, a figure sat alone, in the shadows nursing a drink that burned with its own internal fire. Jason Blood felt the demon inside him stir with sudden interest. Etrigan, who had been bound to him for centuries, had sensed something familiar, something kindred. Another demon, one trying very hard not to be. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. As Constantine's portal spell finally snapped into focus, a swirling gateway of green light that smelled like sulfur and regret. Hellboy took one last look at the ruined basement. Another dimension, another set of rules, another apocalypse to prevent, probably. He'd rejected his destiny in his own universe, carved his own path against prophecy and hell's expectations. Now he'd have to do it all over again in a world that didn't know him yet. The stone hand on his right arm pulsed once, a subtle warmth that he'd learned long ago to distrust. Whatever this place was, whatever rules governed its magic and demons, the right hand of doom recognized it. That was never a good sign. After you, Constantine said, gesturing to the portal. And Hellboy? In this universe, we've got a lot of demons. Most of them are absolute bastards. But one thing they all have in common. He paused, taking a drag on his cigarette. There are bastards. You're going to need to prove you're different. Hellboy stepped through the portal, his coat billowing in the magical winds. Behind him, he heard Constantine mutter something that sounded like a prayer or a curse in his experience. They were usually the same thing. The game had changed. The players were different. But Hellboy's goal remained constant. Save the world. One paranormal disaster at a time. Even if it wasn't his world anymore. Even if destiny had other plans. Constantine's portal deposited them in an alley that smelled like Gotham. Which was to say it smelled like despair mixed with garbage and old blood. Hellboy had been in enough cities to recognize the scent of urban decay. But this was different. Worse, it was as if the darkness itself had weight here, pressing down like a physical thing. Welcome to Crime Alley, Constantine said, collapsing the portal behind them with a gesture. Historic site. This is where Batman's parents got shot. The cities never let it forget. Hellboy looked around at the graffiti-covered walls, the broken streetlights, the steam rising from grates in the pavement. Cheerful place. Gotham doesn't do cheerful. Constantine was already moving, leading them deeper into the maze of back streets. It does Gothic architecture, organized crime, and the occasional homicidal clown. Speaking of which, we need to get you somewhere safe before. Before what? Hellboy interrupted, his golden eyes scanning the rooftops. Before your local demons come calling? Little late for that. He was right. Constantine felt them before he saw them. Distortions in the air, cold spots where heat should be, the taste of sulfur and old meat. More demons, but these weren't the mindless foot soldiers from the tenement. These were scouts, observers, sent by something with intelligence and ambition. A figure materialized from the shadows ahead, humanoid, elegant, wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than Constantine made in a year. Its eyes glowed faint red, and when it smiled, its teeth were just slightly too sharp. John Constantine. The demon's voice was cultured, British accent perfectly modulated. Working late, I see, and with such interesting company. Piss off, Ridley, Constantine growled. I'm not in the mood for Nairn's games tonight. Nairn. Ridley's smile widened. My dear John, Lord Nairn is the least of your concerns at the moment. Every demon lord in the Seven Circles felt that dimensional breach. Every cult in 3 states is dusting off prophecies. And here you stand with the demon's gaze fixed on Hellboy with hungry intensity, with something that shouldn't exist. Something that tastes like hell, but isn't from our hell. Hellboy didn't reach for his gun. Not yet. He'd learned that sometimes the threat of violence was more useful than violence itself. You're with the local management? I serve Lord Naren, Duke of Temptation. He who offers and he who takes. Ridley circled them slowly, never taking his eyes off Hellboy's stone hand. And he would very much like to meet you. That hand. Such power. Such potential. Do you even know what you carry? Yeah, Hellboy said flatly. My hand. It's attached. I'm keeping it. Such wit. Ridley's tone turned cold. You misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation. In this universe, there are rules. Hierarchies. You're an unknown element. And unknown elements are either cataloged or eliminated. Lord Naren is offering you the courtesy of. Hellboy moved. One moment he was standing still. The next, his stone right hand was wrapped around Ridley's throat, lifting the demon off the ground with casual strength. Here's a rule from my universe, Hellboy said quietly. I don't work for demons. I don't bargain with them. And I definitely don't take orders from them. He squeezed slightly. Ridley's eyes bulged. Now you're going to go back to your boss and tell him. I'm not interested in his courtesy. Got it. Ridley managed a strangled laugh. You don't understand. The powers at play here. I understand fine. Hellboy tossed the demon aside like a rag doll. Ridley crashed into a dumpster, sending trash flying. I've been doing this a long time. Different dimension, same garbage. The demon picked itself up, suit ruined, dignity shattered. For a moment, genuine fear flickered across its face. Then it vanished, not through a portal, but simply ceasing to exist, recalled by whatever power had sent it. Constantine let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Well, that's one way to make an impression. You've just declared yourself independent of Hell's politics, which in this universe is either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Usually both, Hellboy admitted. He retrieved his cigar, found it had finally gone out, and lit a new one with a battered Zippo. So what now? More demons? Angry cult members? Fish people? Now, a voice said from the darkness above them. You answer some questions. Both men looked up. Batman dropped from the fire escape with practiced silence, his cape spreading like wings. He landed in a crouch, and even in the dim light of Crime Alley, his presence was undeniable, a living shadow, all angles and threat. Hellboy had faced down elder gods and dimensional horrors, but something about the cowled figure made his instincts prickle. This wasn't a man playing dress-up. This was something else. Something that had stared into darkness so long it had become darkness. Batman, Constantine said with forced casualness. Fancy meeting you here. Constantine. Batman's voice was gravel given form. You triggered a Class 7 mystical event in my city. You summoned something that doesn't match any known demonic signature. And based on what I just witnessed, you've started a war with Hells. Hierarchy. His wide-eye lenses fixed on Hellboy. Who are you? Hellboy studied the vigilante. No visible weapons beyond what looked like throwing blades. But the way he held himself suggested extensive training. More importantly, there was an intelligence in his posture, a calculating assessment happening behind those white lenses. This wasn't someone who acted on impulse. This was a planner, a thinker. Hellboy, he said simply. And I didn't come here by choice. Your friend here pulled me through. Dimensions with a summoning spell that went sideways. That's accurate, Constantine admitted. Though friend is stretching it. More like occasional reluctant associate who wishes he'd never met me. Batman's gaze never left Hellboy. You're demonic in origin, possibly a Cambion or something similar. But your energy signature is wrong for this dimension. Constantine's right, you're from somewhere else. He pulled out what looked like a modified smartphone, scanning Hellboy with it. The question is whether you're here accidentally or whether something sent you. Accidentally, Hellboy confirmed. Though in my experience, accidents usually turn out to be something with a plan. Just not a plan I was in on. Your right hand. Batman's tone sharpened. It's not biological. Some kind of artifact or relic fused to your body. The energy readings are concerning. What is it? Hellboy flexed his stone fingers, the ancient rock grinding slightly. The right hand of doom. That's what the prophecies called it, anyway. Supposed to be the key to ending the world, unlocking gates, bringing about Ragnarok. Pick your apocalypse. I've spent most of my life making sure that doesn't happen. Prophecies. Batman's voice carried a weight of experience. I've dealt with prophecies. They're self-fulfilling. traps designed by beings with too much time and too much power. He paused. You said Ragnarok, Norse mythology, among others. The people who thought I'd be useful for ending the world weren't picky about which mythology they pulled from. Hellboy took a drag on his cigar. But here's the thing about destiny. It only works if you let it. I didn't let it. For the first time, something that might have been respect flickered in Batman's posture. You rejected your purpose. Every damn day. Constantine watched the exchange with growing unease. Batman was in detective mode, which meant he was cataloging every word, every gesture, building a psychological profile and threat assessment simultaneously. And based on what Constantine knew about Bruce Wayne's contingency plans, he had files on how to neutralize every Justice League member if necessary. Hellboy was about to get the full paranoid treatment. We need to take this somewhere more secure, Batman said. Constantine, you're coming too. You started this. You're going to help me understand it. And you? His attention focused on Hellboy like a laser. You're an unknown entity with apocalyptic potential who just assaulted a demon in my city. Until I know more, you're a potential threat. Not the first time I've heard that, Hellboy said mildly. But I'm not big on being detained. Call it a personality flaw. It's not a request. The tension in the alley ratcheted up several notches. Constantine recognized the signs, two immovable objects. About to test who was more immovable, Batman had faced gods and monsters. Hellboy had rejected hell itself. Neither one was accustomed to backing down. Then Hellboy did something unexpected. He smiled. Tell you what, he said. I'll come willingly. Answer your questions. Let you run your tests or whatever. But on one condition. Batman waited. You treat me like what I am, a guy trying to do the right thing in a universe I don't understand yet. Not a threat to be neutralized. Not a weapon to be controlled. Just someone who's been fighting the good fight for a long time and could use some local expertise. Hellboy's golden eyes met Batman's white lenses. I've worked with people like you before. Suspicious, paranoid, always 3 steps ahead. I get it. But I also know when someone's genuinely trying to protect people versus when they're just trying to control the situation. So which is it? The silence stretched. Constantine held his breath. Batman's decisions in moments like this could reshape entire situations. He'd seen the Dark Knight extend trust to reformed villains and withhold it from supposed heroes. What made the difference was always the same thing, whether Batman believed someone was genuinely trying to be better than their nature dictated. The Batcave, Batman finally said. It's secure, warded against mystical intrusion. We'll talk there. He pressed something on his gauntlet. I'm calling in support. Someone who understands dimensional breaches better than I do. Who? Constantine asked warily. Zatanna. Constantine groaned. Of course you are. She's still mad about Prague. Everyone's still mad about Prague. John, you burned down a historic cathedral and accidentally summoned a demon prince into the Pope's summer residence. That was mostly not my fault. While they bickered, Hellboy noticed movement in the shadows across the alley. Not demons this time. Human. Or humanoid, at least. He caught a glimpse of armor, advanced, sleek, glowing faintly blue, before the figure melted back into darkness. Someone else was watching. Someone with technology that could hide from Batman's sensors. Hellboy filed that away. New universe, same old story. Everyone had secrets. Everyone had agendas. And the truth was usually buried under 6 layers of lies and conspiracy. He'd learned to navigate those waters in his own world. Time to learn the local currents. A black car pulled up at the alley's entrance, sleek, armored, probably packed with more technology than a small country's military. The Batmobile, Hellboy assumed. Because of course Batman had a car. Every paranoid vigilante had their vehicle. Get in, Batman ordered. The canopy sliding open to reveal an interior that looked like a fighter jet. Cockpit crossed with a mobile command center. Constantine climbed in first, muttering complaints about gothic aesthetics and masculine overcompensation. Hellboy followed, his stone hand barely fitting through the opening. The interior smelled like leather and old coffee and something else, determination maybe, worn into the very materials through years of obsessive crusading. As the Batmobile's engines hummed to life and they pulled out of Crime Alley, Hellboy looked back at the shadows where he'd seen the armored figure. Empty now? But he'd learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts said this night was far from over. In the House of Mystery, Zatanna placed her hand against the new door and felt it hum with recognition. Something was coming. Something that would change the delicate balance between magic and mundane. Between hell's plots and heaven's indifference. She whispered a spell of seeing, and for just a moment, she glimpsed him, red skin, stone hand. Eyes that had seen too much darkness but refused to be consumed by it. Oh, she breathed. This is going to be complicated. The Batcave was exactly what Hellboy expected and somehow still managed to surprise him. The vehicle descended through a hidden entrance, emerging into a cavern that defied natural geology. Stalactites hung like stone teeth from a ceiling lost in shadow. A massive computer system dominated one wall, its screens flickering with data streams and surveillance feeds from across Gotham. Display cases held costumes, memorials to fallen allies or trophies from defeated enemies. Hellboy couldn't tell. A penny the size of a car sat on a platform. A mechanical dinosaur loomed in the background. "You've got a T-Rex," Hellboy observed. "Souvenir," Batman said curtly, exiting the vehicle. Dinosaur Island. Long story. Everyone's got a long story. Hellboy climbed out, his stone hand scraping against the canopy. The cave's air was cool, damp, tinged with minerals and the faint ozone smell of high-powered electronics. Nice setup. Very brooding vigilante chic. Constantine snorted. "Wait until you see his file on you. He's probably already got 17 ways to kill you cataloged." 13. Batman corrected without humor. "And they're contingencies, not plans. There's a difference." "Comforting," Hellboy muttered. Before anyone could elaborate, the air in the center of the cave shimmered and twisted. Reality bent like heated glass. And a woman stepped through. Literally stepped through. A portal made of backwards written words that glowed purple in the air. She wore a magician's tailored suit, top hat perched at a Johnny angle, fishnets under formal attire. Her dark hair framed a face that managed to be both beautiful and sharp with intelligence. "Constantine," she said with forced pleasantness. "Still not dead." "Disappointing." "Zatanna," Constantine replied with equal warmth. "Still working children's parties? I perform at the Oblivion Bar now. Adults only. Better tips, and they scream more. Satisfyingly when the tricks go wrong." Her eyes shifted to Hellboy, and something changed in her expression, curiosity mixed with wariness. "And you must be the dimensional anomaly that's got every magic user in the city vibrating with anxiety." Hellboy removed his cigar. "Hellboy, and I didn't mean to cause trouble. No one ever does." Zatanna circled him slowly, her fingers tracing patterns in the air that left faint trails of light. Hellboy felt something brush against his skin, not physical contact, but magical probe, gentle but insistent. Reading his aura, he guessed. He'd been through this before with the BPRD's mystics. "Fascinating. You're demonic, but not demon. There's human blood in there too, mixed with something older. Something that predates humanity." Her eyes widened slightly. "That hand. It's Oh, that's a problem." "It usually is," Hellboy agreed. "Let me see it." She held out her hand, waiting for permission. Hellboy appreciated that. Too many magic users just grabbed and poked without asking. He extended his right arm, the stone hand massive and rough in the cave's artificial lighting. Zatanna didn't touch it directly. Instead, she wove a spell. Laver Ruai Stursis, and ghostly symbols appeared around the hand. Ancient writing and languages Hellboy recognized from his own world's darkest grimoires. Her face paled. "Batman," she said quietly, "we have a significant problem." "Define significant." "Apocalyptic. World-ending." "Why are the stars going out?" "Level significant." Zatanna dismissed her spell with a wave. "That hand isn't just a mystical artifact. It's a key. And I'm reading resonances with things in our dimension that should never, ever be unlocked." "Like what?" Batman had moved to his computer, already pulling up files. Hellboy recognized names scrolling past. Project, Pandora's Box, Gate of Tartarus, Seal of the Seven. Like gates that separate our reality from places we really don't want to visit. Hell dimensions, dark multiverses, the realms where the great darkness sleeps. Zatanna turned to Hellboy. "In your universe, what was that hand supposed to unlock?" "Depends who you ask," Hellboy said. "Nazis wanted it to open portals for eldritch horrors. Demons wanted it to unlock Hell's gates. Various prophecies said it would bring about Ragnarok. Release the Ogdru Jihad. Think Lovecraftian gods having a really bad day, or just generally end existence as we know it. And you resisted all of that. For about 70 years now, yeah. Zatanna exchanged a look with Batman. He's been carrying that thing for 7 decades and hasn't succumbed to its purpose. Succumbing isn't really my style. That's… Zatanna paused, searching for words. Actually impressive. Most artifacts of power that strong eventually corrupt or consume their bearers. The fact that you've maintained your free will for that long suggests an extraordinary strength of character. She frowned. Or you're playing a very long game, and we're all about to regret this conversation. Zatanna, Batman's voice cut through. Analysis. The magician's expression became professional, clinical. The hand is resonating with at least 3 major mystical convergence points in our universe. The first is predictable, Hell's Gates. Specifically the ones Naren has been trying to crack open for centuries. The second is concerning, there's a harmonic frequency matching the dark. Multiverse breach points that the Justice League sealed after the last incursion. And the third, she hesitated. The third is impossible. It's matching the signature of the source wall. Constantine, who'd been silent and smoking in a corner, suddenly looked very interested. The bloody source wall? The edge of reality itself? The thing that even the new gods don't mess with? That source wall. Zatanna nodded grimly. Which means Hellboy's hand doesn't just open doors to hell or dark dimensions. It might be able to unlock the fundamental barrier between this universe and what lies beyond. Fantastic, Hellboy muttered. New universe, new apocalyptic potential. At least I'm consistent. Batman was already typing, cross-referencing data. If demons know about this, and based on the encounter in Crime Alley, they do, then they'll try to acquire the hand. By force if necessary. They can try. Hellboy's tone was mild, but there was iron underneath. Won't be the first time. Won't be the last. You don't understand the scale of what we're dealing with. Batman turned from his computer, and even through the cowl, his intensity was palpable. In this universe, demons aren't just supernatural threats. They're organized, political. They have hierarchies, territories, and the power to level cities when properly motivated. Naren alone has bargained souls from half the planet's population. And he's not the only player. There's also the first of the fallen, Constantine added. Original rebel. Makes Naren look like a middle manager. If he decides that hand is worth his personal attention, we're in for a world of hurt. And that's just the demons, Zatanna continued. There are cults throughout the world, groups like the Church of Blood, the Cobra Cult, even splinter factions of the League of Assassins, who would kill thousands to get their hands on an artifact that powerful. Plus whatever interest the Apocalypse connection might draw. Apocalypse? Hellboy asked. Batman pulled up an image on the main screen. A desolate planet of fire pits and factories, dominated by towering structures. That looked like a fascist architect's fever dream. At the center, a figure carved from living stone. Eyes glowing red, face locked in eternal scowl. Darkseid, Batman said. Ruler of Apocalypse. New god. His goal is to find the anti-life equation, a mathematical proof that free will doesn't exist. He's destroyed entire civilizations pursuing it. And if he learns, there's an artifact that can unlock fundamental barriers of reality. He didn't need to finish. He'll want it, Hellboy concluded. Great. So I'm a dimensional refugee who accidentally became the most wanted key in the multiverse. Essentially, Batman's fingers never stopped moving across his keyboard. Which is why you need protection, resources, intel, the Justice League. No, the word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Everyone turned to look at Hellboy. No offense to your organization, Hellboy said carefully, but I've worked with teams before. Government agencies, multinational coalitions, superhero groups, even back home. And they all have the same problem. They want to control the situation. Control me. Turn me into a tool they can point at problems. He met Batman's gaze steadily. I didn't reject destiny in my universe, just to become someone else's weapon in this one. This isn't about control, Batman insisted. It's about protection, coordination. We have experience with people like me. Hellboy's tone sharpened. With demons trying to be good? with living weapons who chose different? Because from where I'm standing, your first instinct was threat assessment and contingency planning, which I get. I'm not naive. But there's a difference between precaution and imprisonment. The tension in the cave thickened. Constantine looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Zatanna watched with the careful neutrality of someone who'd seen this argument before in different contexts. Finally, Batman spoke. You're right. The admission surprised everyone, including probably Batman himself. I did assess you as a potential threat, he continued. Because that's what I do. It's how I've kept this city and this world safe from beings far more powerful than me. But, he paused, and something almost human entered his voice. I've also seen what happens when good people are treated like monsters just because of what they are rather than who they choose to be. My son Damien was raised by assassins, trained to kill, designed to be a weapon. But he chose different. He's a hero now. Hellboy studied the vigilante with new understanding. You're saying I get a choice. I'm saying you've already made your choice. For 70 years, apparently. The question is whether you'll accept help honoring that choice, or whether you'll try to fight this alone. Before Hellboy could respond, alarms erupted throughout the cave. Red lights flashed. The computer screens filled with warnings. Batman was moving before the first klaxon finished, his cape snapping as he reached his terminal. What is it? Zatanna demanded. Mystical energy spike in old Gotham. Massive. Multiple signatures. Batman's fingers flew across keys. It's a summoning. Large scale. And the focal point is. He paused, expression darkening behind the cowl. The ruins of Arkham Asylum. Bugger, Constantine muttered. They're not wasting time. Who? Hellboy asked. Probably the cult of the Crimson Dawn, Zatanna said grimly. They've been dormant for years, but they worship pre-Atlantean gods. The kind that see reality as a mistake to be corrected. If they've sensed your hand, they'll try to force me to open their god's prison, Hellboy finished. He'd heard variations of this story before. Let me guess. Ancient prophecy, chosen one, end of the world. Yes, but with a Gotham twist. Batman said, already moving toward the Batmobile. The cult's leader is Dr. Simon Hurt, one of the most dangerous men I've ever faced. He's a master manipulator, with resources that shouldn't exist and knowledge that shouldn't be possible. If he's behind this summoning, then he's already 10 steps ahead, and we're walking into a trap. Constantine concluded. Brilliant. Let's go get killed. Zatanna was already weaving a transportation spell. Batman, you take the vehicle. Constantine, Hellboy, and I will portal directly to the site. We need to contain this before. The cave's lighting flickered, went dark. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in blood-red illumination. And in that crimson light, Hellboy's stone hand began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, pulsing with a rhythm that matched no heartbeat but felt ancient and terrible. That's not good, Hellboy said quietly. It's responding to the summoning, Zatanna breathed. They're calling to it, trying to activate it remotely. She grabbed Hellboy's arm, his left, not the right. We need to go, now, before they complete whatever ritual they've started. But even as she spoke, Hellboy felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. The hand was pulling, not physically, but metaphysically. Something in this universe recognized it, called to it, wanted it to fulfill its purpose. And for the first time since arriving in this dimension, Hellboy felt a flicker of genuine concern. In his world, he'd learned the rules, understood the threats, built defenses against his own nature through decades of discipline and choice. Here, the rules were different. The threats were unknown, and destiny, it seemed, had been waiting for him. All right, he said, jaw set. Let's go stop an apocalypse. Again, the ruins of Arkham Asylum had always been a wound in Gotham's flesh, a place where madness had seeped so deep into the architecture that even after demolition, the site remained poisoned. Hellboy emerged from Zatanna's portal into a scene pulled from his worst cases. Chanting cultists in crimson robes circled a ritual space carved into the asylum's foundation, their voices rising in harmonics that made reality shiver. At the center stood a man in an old-fashioned suit, his face hidden behind a grotesque red and black mask. Dr. Simon Hurt turned toward them as if he'd been expecting their arrival to the second. His cultured voice carried easily over the chanting. The devil finally comes to Hell's doorstep. How appropriate. Hellboy counted quickly, 30 cultists, all armed with ceremonial daggers that glowed with sickly green light. More concerning were the symbols, painted in what smelled like blood, across the broken concrete. Sigils he recognized, from the worst of his BPRD cases, mixed with others that belonged to this universe's particular brand of nightmare. Dr. Hurt. Batman's voice came from the shadows as the Batmobile arrived. The Dark Knight already deploying from the vehicle. You're under arrest for mass murder, conspiracy, and crimes against reality. Hurt laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Still clinging to your little rules, Bruce? Still pretending that law and order matter in a universe that's fundamentally chaos? He gestured to Hellboy. Your new friend understands. He's walked through the fire, seen what waits beyond the thin veneer of civilization. I've seen enough to know you're full of it, Hellboy replied. Guys like you always dress up your power fantasies in philosophical nonsense. Makes you feel better about the murder. Murder? Hurt's tone shifted, became almost playful. I'm not murdering anyone. I'm fulfilling prophecy. The coming of the red right hand. The opening of ways. The return of the sleepers. Beneath. He raised his arms, and the chanting intensified. You think you chose to reject your destiny, Hellboy? You think free will brought you here? No. You were summoned, not by Constantine's fumbling spell, but by forces far greater. The right hand of doom was always meant to arrive in our universe. At this moment, in this place, the stone hand pulsed harder now, hot against Hellboy's arm. He felt the pull stronger, a magnetic attraction to something beneath the asylum's ruins. Something old. Something that made even his considerable experience with eldritch horrors recoil. He's lying, Constantine said, but his voice lacked conviction. He has to be. The summoning was random. I didn't target. You targeted Hell, Constantine. Hurt began walking toward them slowly. Casual, as if they posed no threat. You wanted information about gates and keys. And the universe provided. Not through your skill, but through its own need. It needed the key, so it brought the key to the lock. Zatanna, Batman said. Quietly, can you counter the ritual? The magician's hands were already moving through complex patterns, her backward speech weaving defensive barriers. But Hellboy saw her face. She was struggling. The ritual was massive, drawing power from sources she couldn't easily interrupt. They're tapping into something beneath the city, she said through gritted teeth. Something that predates Gotham. Predates humanity, probably. And they're using Hellboy's presence to amplify. The ground exploded, not with fire or force, but with wrongness. Reality tore like wet paper. And through the gap emerged something that hurt to look at. A tentacle the size of a bus, covered in eyes that wept black fluid. Each eye reflecting not the present, but horrible futures. The cultists screamed in what might have been ecstasy or terror, with zealots. It was hard to tell the difference. Batman was already moving, batarangs flying toward the nearest cultists. But more tendrils erupted from the ground. One wrapped around Constantine, lifting him off his feet. Another crashed towards Zatanna, forcing her to abandon her counterspell to erect a shield. Hellboy drew his revolver and fired. Once, twice, 3 times. The bullets, carved with protective sigils from his own world, punched through the tentacle holding Constantine. It recoiled, screaming without sound. And the occult detective fell hard, coughing. Thanks, Constantine gasped. Hate tentacles. Always the bloody tentacles. Welcome to my life, Hellboy muttered, advancing toward the tear in reality. His stone hand was burning now. Pulling so hard, he had to physically resist the urge to reach toward the rift. Whatever was down there wanted his hand desperately, which meant touching it was absolutely the last thing he should do. Dr. Hurt stood at the edge of the tear, arms spread wide. Do you feel it, Hellboy? The recognition? The calling? That's the sleeper beneath, an old god that fell from the stars before Atlantis rose. It's been locked away, sealed by forces that no longer exist. But your hand, he smiled behind his mask. Your hand is from beyond. It doesn't obey this universe's rules. It can open what this reality sealed shut. Not interested, Hellboy growled, but the hand pulled harder. He could feel it. Not just physical attraction, but temptation. The same whispers he'd heard his entire life. Use the power. Fulfill the purpose. Open the gate and end the struggle. Let destiny take over. Been saying no to that voice for 70 years. Not stopping now. You don't have a choice. Hert's composure cracked slightly. The ritual is complete. The alignment is perfect. Your hand will open the gate whether you will it or not. Then I'll cut it off. Hellboy raised his left hand, where his gun had transformed. Years of BPRD. Modifications meant the weapon could shift configurations. Now it sprouted a blade, glowing with protective wards. Done it before. Grew back. Inconvenient, but better than apocalypse. He meant it. Batman saw it in his stance, the way his left hand steadied for the cut. This demon would mutilate himself rather than become the weapon others wanted. It was insane. It was admirable. It was exactly what Bruce himself might do if faced with the same impossible choice. Belay that, Batman said sharply. He was at his computer gauntlet, fingers flying. Zatanna, I'm sending you coordinates. Can you redirect the ritual's focal point? To where? She called back, maintaining her shield against 3 writhing tentacles. The Phantom Zone projector. In the Batcave. Constantine's eyes widened. You want to send that thing to the Phantom Zone? The Kryptonian prison dimension. It's a dimensional null space, Batman said. Already uploading data to Zatanna's mystical sensors. No time passes there. No physical form exists there. If we can redirect the ritual's completion, whatever Hurt is trying to summon will be trapped before it fully manifests. Brilliant and probably lethal, Zatanna said, adjusting her spellwork mid-casting. I love it. Lac 8 Lyrub OT 8 Inaz Matna. Dr. Hurt realized what was happening. No, you'll trap it between dimensions. The ritual will backlash. The power has nowhere to. The world turned inside out. Hellboy had experienced dimensional instability before, traveled through gates, walked between worlds, survived reality storms. This was worse. The ritual's power, denied its intended target, rebounded through every living thing in the area. He felt it slam into him like a freight train made of broken futures and impossible geometries. His stone hand erupted with light, not the faint glow from before, but blazing radiance that painted the ruins in stark shadows. And in that light, Hellboy saw what the hand truly was. Not just a key, not just a weapon. It was a door that could open anywhere, to anything, across any dimension or reality. And every demon, god, and cosmic horror that had ever wanted to use it came calling at once. Images flooded his mind, Naren offering power beyond measure. The first of the fallen promising freedom from the burden. A figure of living stone, Darkseid, speaking of equations and order. Things without names, from dimensions without physics, offering transcendence and oblivion in equal measure. And underneath it all, a voice he'd heard before in his darkest moments. His own voice, telling him that resistance was exhausting, that he'd earned rest, that opening one little gate, letting in one small apocalypse, wouldn't really be that bad if it meant the struggle finally ended. Hellboy, Batman's voice cut through the maelstrom. Fight it. Trying, Hellboy gritted out. The hand was moving on its own now, reaching toward the dimensional tear. He grabbed his right wrist with his left hand, physically restraining himself, muscle straining. Not working. Constantine appeared at his side, hands glowing with borrowed power. Right. Emergency exorcism. This is going to hurt. He slammed his palms against Hellboy's chest and shouted words in a language that predated Latin. Get out. The possessive influence recoiled, but didn't leave. It was too deeply entwined with the hand, with Hellboy's nature. Constantine staggered back, smoke rising from his hands. Bollocks. It's not possession. It's activation. The hand is waking up. Then we put it back to sleep, Zatanna said. She'd abandoned her defense, letting Batman's smoke pellets and sonic devices handle the cultists. Now she stood before Hellboy, staff raised, voice strong. Hellboy, I need you to trust me. I'm going to bind your hand temporarily, lock it in a mystical stasis. It won't stop it permanently, but it'll give us time. Do it, Hellboy managed. Zatanna's spell was beautiful and terrible words of power wrapped around the stone hand like chains of silver light, each link inscribed with symbols from a dozen magical traditions. The hand's glow dimmed. The pulling sensation eased. Hellboy gasped, feeling control return. But Dr. Hurt was laughing, even as Batman's batarang struck him, even as the ritual collapsed and the tentacles retreated back through the closing dimensional tear. He laughed. You think you've won? Blood trickled from beneath his mask where Batman's strike had connected. You've just announced to every power in this universe that the right hand of doom is real, active, and vulnerable. Naren heard that resonance. Darkseid sensors detected the energy spike. Every cult, demon, and would-be god now knows the key exists. He staggered toward the shadows, his form beginning to dissolve. You haven't saved the world tonight, Batman. You've started a war for it. Then he was gone, not fleeing, but evaporating like smoke, leaving only his laughter echoing through the ruins. The cultists, their leader departed, tried to scatter. Batman was on them in seconds, moving with brutal efficiency. Zatanna erected barriers to contain them. Constantine began sketching binding circles, muttering about paperwork and whose jurisdiction. Supernatural terrorism fell under. Hellboy sat on a chunk of broken concrete, staring at his right hand. The silver chains of Zatanna's spell still glowed faintly around it. He'd felt it, the full power trying to wake. The sheer magnitude of what the hand could do in this universe where different rules applied. In his world, he'd learned its limits. Here, there seemed to be no limits at all. That was closer than I'd like, he said quietly. Batman approached, cape settling around him like folded wings. Hurt was right about one thing. Every major power now knows you're here, and they'll come for that hand. Let them come. Hellboy's jaw set stubbornly. I've been fighting this fight for 70 years. I can keep fighting. Not alone. Not in this universe. Batman paused, then did something Hellboy hadn't expected. He extended his hand. Not demanding, offering. You were right earlier. This isn't about control. It's about alliance. You need resources, information, allies who understand what you're facing. And we need someone who won't surrender to destiny no matter how hard it pushes. Join us. Not as a weapon, as a hero. Hellboy looked at the offered hand. Looked at Zatanna, who nodded encouragingly. At Constantine, who shrugged in his characteristic, everything's terrible, but we muddle through way. Then back at Batman. One condition, Hellboy said. I stay independent. I'll work with your Justice League, take missions, coordinate when it makes sense. But I don't take orders. I don't become someone's contingency plan. And if I think you're crossing a line, I'll say so. That's 3 conditions, Batman said. But there was the faintest hint of approval in his voice. Agreed. They shook hands, flesh and gauntlet. And somewhere in the dark spaces between dimensions, beings far older and more terrible than Gotham's usual nightmares took notice. The game had changed. The key was in play, and the locks they'd been trying to open for eons suddenly seemed within reach. In a bar called the Oblivion, where the damned and desperate gathered, a figure sat alone in shadow and smiled. Etrigan had been waiting for news of the Red Giant's arrival. Now the demon within Jason Blood stirred with anticipation. Gone, gone, the die is cast, he whispered to himself. A kindred soul has come at last. Though demon-born, he fights the night. Perhaps together, we'll do right. The rhyme was terrible even by Etrigan's standards. But the sentiment was genuine. Hellboy had just earned himself an ally in the strangest places. The Oblivion Bar existed in no fixed location and every location. Simultaneously, a mystical watering hole that appeared only to those who knew magic's true cost. Hellboy stepped through its threshold 3 nights after the Arkham incident, guided by Constantine's grudging directions and a warning to not start any fights you can't finish, and definitely don't play poker with the house. The interior was exactly what decades of paranormal investigation had taught him to expect: dark wood, darker patrons, and the kind of atmosphere that suggested violence was always one drink away. But it was also surprisingly comfortable. The bartender was Jim Rook, better known as Night Master, and he nodded acknowledgement as Hellboy entered. Beer, Hellboy said, settling onto a stool that creaked under his weight. Something that won't try to possess me. I've got a nice lager from the third hell, Rook said, already pouring. Technically cursed, but only if you're a lawyer. You're good. Hellboy accepted the drink and surveyed the room. A corner booth held what looked like a mummy playing chess with a translucent ghost. At the bar's far end, a woman with green skin and leafy hair, plant elemental, he guessed, was deep in conversation with a man whose head was literally a flaming skull. This was his kind of place. Weird, but honest about being weird. You must be the dimensional refugee everyone's talking about. The voice came from behind, cultured, measured, with an accent that reminded Hellboy of old British horror films. He turned to find a well-dressed man with features that were almost too perfect, too symmetrical, the kind of face that made you instinctively distrust it. And his eyes, they held knowledge that no human should possess. Phantom stranger, the man introduced himself, not offering a hand. I don't touch people. Complicated theological reasons. You're Hellboy. That's what they tell me. Hellboy took a drink. You here to warn me about my terrible destiny? Because I've heard that speech before. Got it memorized. No. The stranger settled onto the adjacent stool, though Hellboy had the distinct impression he wasn't actually sitting, so much as approximating the concept of sitting. I'm here to tell you that your arrival was not accident, but neither was it destiny. That's wonderfully vague. You practiced that. For centuries. The barest hint of humor touched the stranger's lips. I exist outside linear causality, Hellboy. I see possibilities, not certainties. And what I see regarding you is unusual. In your universe, you rejected your purpose and carved your own path. Admirable, difficult, but ultimately successful because you knew the rules of your reality. And here the rules are different, Hellboy finished. Yeah, I'm getting that impression. Not just different. Incompatible in crucial ways. The stranger's gaze fixed on Hellboy's stone hand, still wrapped in Zatanna's silver binding. In your world, the right hand of doom was tied to specific prophecies, specific entities. The Ogdru Jihad, Ragnarok, apocalyptic, events unique to your dimensional framework. Here, he paused. Here, the hand resonates with everything. Every sealed gate, every imprisoned god, every barrier between realities. Because this universe has suffered more crisis events, more reality restructuring, more dimensional breaches than yours. The hand doesn't just open your world's locks, it recognizes all locks. So I'm an even bigger problem here than I was back home. Great. Or a greater solution. The stranger stood, preparing to leave as mysteriously as he'd arrived. You spent 70 years proving that destiny is a lie. That choice matters. This universe desperately needs that lesson. We have gods among men, Hellboy, Superman, Wonder Woman, beings of such power that tyranny is always one bad day away. You've seen the Injustice Files Batman showed you. Hellboy had. Alternate timeline, where Superman became a dictator after the Joker murdered his pregnant wife, where absolute power had corrupted absolutely, and only Batman's desperate insurgency had offered resistance. The files had kept him awake for 2 nights because he recognized the pattern. Any being with enough power eventually faced that choice: control or freedom, order or chaos. The easy path of forcing compliance versus the hard path of allowing choice. I've seen them, Hellboy said quietly. Then you understand the question at the heart of this universe's struggle. Can those with the power of gods resist becoming gods? Can they remain heroes? The stranger's form began to fade, becoming translucent. You answered that question for yourself long ago. Perhaps you can help others answer it too. Or perhaps, he was almost gone now. Perhaps, you'll discover that refusing destiny in one universe doesn't guarantee refusing it in another. Then he was gone, leaving only the faint smell of incense and philosophical dread. Cheerful fellow, Hellboy muttered into his beer. That's the stranger for you. A new voice said. Female, Irish accent, radiating the kind of warmth that the stranger had utterly lacked. Hellboy turned to find a woman with dark hair streaked with white, wearing what looked like a bartender's outfit from a gothic nightmare. She had the sight. He recognized it in the way her eyes focused slightly, past the material world. Name's Meg. I run the place when Rook's off doing hero nonsense. You know about me? Honey, everyone in the magical community knows about you by now. Constantine's been dining out on the story of how his summoning went sideways for 3 days straight. Plus, Zatanna put out a general advisory, dimensional refugee, apocalyptic potential. Don't try to steal his hand unless you want Batman, Zatanna, and Constantine hunting you. She refilled his beer without asking. On the house. You look like you need it. Thanks. Hellboy appreciated the gesture. So what's the verdict? Am I welcome here? Or am I the kind of trouble you kick out before it starts? Meg laughed, genuine, warm. Hellboy, this is the Oblivion Bar. Trouble is our primary clientele. You want to see unwelcome? Try bringing in someone from the Suicide Squad. Wallers. People are banned for life after they tried to recruit half our regulars. She leaned against the bar, studying him. Word is you stood up to Naren's envoy. That takes stones. And not the hand kind, the metaphorical kind. He was being pushy. He's a demon lord. Pushy is his baseline. Pushy escalates to selling your soul, faster than you can say contractual obligations. She nodded toward a booth in the back. Speaking of demons, someone's been waiting for you. Jason Blood. You'll know him when you see him. Hellboy followed her gesture and spotted the man immediately, older, dressed like he belonged in a Victorian gentleman's club, sitting alone with a book that looked bound in something that had once been alive. As Hellboy approached, the man looked up, and there was recognition in his eyes that went beyond mere introduction. Hellboy, Jason Blood said, his voice carrying centuries of weariness. Please sit. I've wanted to meet you since I felt your arrival. Hellboy settled into the booth. Carefully, the furniture wasn't designed for someone his size. You're the one bound to Etrigan. Batman mentioned you. Bound. Blood's laugh was bitter. Polite way of putting it. Cursed would be more accurate. Merlin chained me to a demon 16 centuries ago as punishment for betrayal. Now we share this existence. Man and monster. Locked in eternal struggle. He closed his book. Which is why I wanted to meet you. Because you're something I've never encountered before. A demon who isn't fighting his nature. You've accepted what you are while refusing what you're meant to be. That's rare. It's just stubbornness, mostly, Hellboy said. But he understood what blood meant. Etrigan and Jason were at war with each other. Hellboy was at peace with himself, even while at war with destiny. Stubbornness is underrated. Blood poured wine from a carafe. It smelled expensive, and probably was. I've read about your exploits. The Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Your role in preventing various apocalypses. Your relationship with Abe Sapien, Liz Sherman, the others. You built something in your world, a family of outcasts, fighting for a species that feared them. Admirable. We did what we could. And now you're here, in a universe that already has its share of outcast heroes. Blood leaned forward. I'm going to be direct. Because subtlety isn't my strong suit, and Etrigan would mock me for trying. You need allies. Not the Justice League. They're politicians as much as heroes. For all Batman's good intentions. I mean real allies. People who understand what it's like to carry darkness and choose light anyway. You offering? I'm suggesting. Blood pulled out what looked like a business card. Actual card stock. No mystical nonsense. It had an address in Gotham's East End. That's my shop. Blood Antiquities. I deal in mystical artifacts, texts, objects of power. If you need information about this universe's magical framework, I can provide it. If you need weapons that work against DC's particular brand of horror, I have access. And if you need someone who understands the burden of demonic heritage, he tapped his chest. I'm volunteering. Hellboy took the card. Why? What do you get out of this? Hope, Blood said simply. For 1600 years. I've watched Etrigan's influence corrupt everything I try to build. I've seen the demon win more battles than I care to count. But you? You've been winning your war for 70 years. Maybe. He paused, vulnerability flickering across his ancient face. Maybe if I help you maintain that victory, I can learn how to achieve my own. Before Hellboy could respond, the bar's atmosphere changed. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. Conversations died. Even the mummy and ghost stopped their chess game. A woman had entered the Oblivion bar. She was tall, beautiful in the way sharp objects are beautiful, wearing armor that seemed woven from shadows and starlight. Her hair was white as bone, her eyes red as fresh blood, and the aura she radiated made every magical being in the room instinctively take a step back. Oh hell, Blood muttered. That's Grail, the woman announced, her voice carrying the weight of divine authority. Daughter of Darkseid. And I have come for the one called Hellboy. The bar erupted into chaos, patrons scrambling for exits, protective spells flaring to life, Nightmaster reaching for the enchanted sword he kept behind the bar. But Grail merely raised one hand, and everyone froze. Not physically. Hellboy could still move, still breathe. But a pressure filled the air, heavy as mountains, making it clear that any aggressive action would be met with overwhelming force. Peace, Grail said. Though her tone suggested peace was a courtesy she could revoke instantly. I am not here for violence. Not yet. I am here to deliver a message from my father. Darkseid, Hellboy said, standing slowly. He'd seen the files, knew what the Lord of Apocalypse represented. Tyranny as cosmic principle. The death of free will, omega beams that could erase beings from existence. Tell him I'm not interested in whatever he's selling. Grail's smile was razor-edged. My father is not selling. He is observing. The right hand of doom has resonated across dimensional barriers. Apocalypse's motherbox network detected the frequency, and my father has determined that you represent a variable in his equations, one that must be understood before the anti-life equation can be completed. I'm not helping anyone complete anything, Hellboy growled. No one is asking you to. Grail began circling him slowly. Predator assessing prey. My father respects strength. He respects those who resist their designated purpose, as he himself resisted the Source's will when he seized control of Apocalypse. You interest him, Hellboy, which is dangerous for you, but also opportune. How do you figure? Because Darkseid's interest protects you from lesser powers. Naren would not dare claim what Darkseid watches. The first of the fallen treads carefully around new god politics. Even the demons of Hell's hierarchy bow to Apocalypse's might when pressed. She stopped directly in front of him, meeting his golden eyes with her crimson ones. My father offers you sanctuary, a place on Apocalypse, free from this universe's heroes and their tiresome morality. In exchange, you would consult, share your understanding of dimensional barriers, help refine the anti-life calculations. So I'd be a prisoner with better furniture. You would be a guest. There is a difference. Not in my experience. Hellboy crossed his arms, both of them, the stone hand's silver chains rattling. Tell Darkseid thanks, but no thanks. I'll take my chances with Earth's heroes. Grail's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Respect. Perhaps, or recognition of fellow stubbornness. Very well. But know this, Hellboy, my father always collects what he desires. Today he offers alliance. Tomorrow, she turned toward the door. Tomorrow he may simply take. She vanished in a flash of light. Boom tube, Hellboy realized. Direct teleportation via new god technology. The kind of tech that made Constantine's portals look like parlor tricks. The bar remained frozen for a heartbeat after her departure. Then, as if a spell had broken, everyone started moving and talking at once. Nightmaster was shouting about new god diplomatic immunity, and why does this always happen here? Blood looked pale, paler than usual anyway. Well, the ancient scholar said weakly, you've certainly made an impression. 3 days in our universe, and you've attracted attention from Hell's hierarchy, various cults, and now Apocalypse itself. At this rate, you'll have the anti-monitor knocking by next week. Hellboy drained his beer in one long pull. Is the anti-monitor a thing I should worry about? He destroyed the multiverse once. Required multiple crises to stop. So yes. Fantastic. Hellboy set down his glass. I need to get out more. Learn the local threats. Figure out who's who before they all line up to kidnap me. He looked at Blood seriously. Your offers still stand? The information, the allies, the help understanding this universe. Absolutely. Then we should probably start soon. Because if Darkseid's paying attention, things are going to get worse before they get better. They always do. Jason Blood stood, retrieving his book. As he did, his shadow seemed to move independently, flickering with shapes that suggested something far more monstrous than human. Etrigan was listening, interested despite himself. There's someone else you should meet, Blood said. Detective Chimp, brilliant investigator, extensive knowledge of magical crimes, happens to be a chimpanzee. He's helped the Justice League Dark on multiple occasions and has no patience for destiny or prophecy. A detective chimpanzee, Hellboy repeated. This is the DC universe. We have stranger things. There's a sentient street in Kansas. Of course there is. Hellboy followed Blood toward the exit, then paused. Jason, earlier, you said you wanted to learn how I maintain my victory against Etrigan. Want to know the secret? Desperately. Hellboy tapped his temple. It's not about winning. It's about never stopping the fight. Every day, I choose not to be what they want me to be. Some days that choice is easy. Some days it's the hardest thing I've ever done. But I make the choice. That's the only trick there is. Blood absorbed that, nodded slowly. Every day? For 70 years. Every damn day. They left the Oblivion Bar together, demon-blooded hero and demon-cursed scholar. Two beings carrying darkness but refusing to let it define them. Outside, Gotham's rain fell like absolution, washing the streets clean only for them to get dirty again by morning. Somewhere on Apocalypse, Darkseid stood before screens showing Hellboy's profile, his stone face thoughtful, the right hand of doom, a key to dimensional barriers. But more interesting, a being of power who rejected power's obvious applications. That was rare, useful, or dangerous. Tom would tell which. And in the deepest pits of hell, where Naren plotted and the first of the fallen schemed, both demon lords felt Darkseid's interest and revised their own plans accordingly. The game had become more complex. The prize remained the same, but now they'd have to be careful. Darkseid's interest meant open war was off the table. For now, Avengers Tower rose above, Manhattan like a steel and glass monument to humanity's resilience, rebuilt after alien invasions, enhanced after technological singularities, and reinforced after reality-bending catastrophes. Its upper floors housed living quarters that had once been filled with Earth's mightiest heroes, now echoing with absence and memory. Tony Stark stood in the common area watching Goku consume his 14th plate of food while Vegeta methodically demolished his 9th, both scions eating with the focused intensity of warriors refueling for the next battle. Friday, Tony subvocalized. Tell me you're getting useful data from this. Affirmative, boss. Their metabolic rates are approximately 40 times baseline human. Caloric conversion to energy is occurring at cellular level with near-perfect efficiency. No waste products detected. Everything is being converted to usable bioenergy or stored for rapid transformation access. So they're living fusion reactors that run on cheeseburgers. Essentially, yes. Tony pinched the bridge of his nose. The universe has a weird sense of humor. Across the room, Thor was regaling Goku with tales of Asgardian feasts while demonstrating proper meat consumption technique. Captain America sat with Vegeta, who was grudgingly explaining Scion combat doctrine with the precision of someone who'd commanded armies before he'd learned what friendship meant. Doctor Strange had returned to the sanctum but maintained an open communication line, his holographic projection flickering in the corner while Wong worked through ancient texts behind him. I've cross-referenced every multiversal summoning ritual in Kamartaj's archives, Wong reported, his voice carrying the exhaustion of 6 hours continuous research. The energy signature from Kang's breach matches 3 historical incidents, all involving entities attempting to pull beings from adjacent realities for strategic purposes. Strategic purposes meaning weaponizing them, Steve clarified. Correct. In 2 cases, the summoned entities were successfully bound and used as living weapons. In the 3rd case, Wong paused, consulting his notes. The entity was Sidorak, who did not appreciate being summoned without permission. The sorcerers responsible were found scattered across 17 dimensions, still technically alive but experiencing all 17 simultaneously. Vegeta stopped eating mid-bite. This Kong individual tried to bind us, make us weapons. That was likely his intent, Strange projection confirmed. Though I suspect after encountering Gogeta's power level, he adjusted his strategy to containment and study. You're far more dangerous than anything he's successfully captured before. Good. Vegeta's smile was predatory. Let him understand the magnitude of his mistake. About that, Tony interjected, pulling up holographic displays that showed Kang's historical timeline. We need to talk strategy. Kong isn't like normal villains. He doesn't just attack. He's already fought us across multiple timelines, learning from each iteration. By the time we encounter him, he's often already won in 17 other realities and is just going through the motions in ours. Goku swallowed an entire sandwich before responding. So he's like Hit from Universe 6? The assassin who could skip time and already know where you'd be before you moved. Similar concept, but Kong operates on much larger scale, Steve explained. He doesn't just skip forward moments. He experiences entire timelines simultaneously. When he faces us, he's drawing on knowledge from battles we haven't fought yet and victories we haven't achieved. That's horrifying, Goku said cheerfully. How do you beat someone who's already won? You do what Gogeta did. Tony pointed at the Scion. You operate so far outside his calculations that his predictive models break down. He was prepared for 17 different timeline variations of that fight. Gogeta created an 18th by burning through his fusion time limit as a tactical resource rather than a constraint. Vegeta leaned forward, his tactical mind engaging. So the key is unpredictability combined with overwhelming force applied faster than he can recalculate. That actually plays to Scion's strengths. We're exceptionally good at finding new ways to hit things harder. Eloquently put, Strange said dryly. But there's a complication. King's fortress exists outside normal time flow, in what's called the quantum realm's temporal layer. To truly stop him, we'd need to assault that fortress directly, which means entering a space where he controls all temporal variables. So a suicide mission, Vegeta said flatly. Traditionally, yes. Good thing Scions have died before, Goku grinned. Takes some of the intimidation factor away when you've already experienced the afterlife multiple times. Thor raised his mead in salute. A warrior's attitude. I too have tasted death's embrace, yet here I stand. To victory through impossible odds. To victory. Goku clinked his glass against Thor's, both warriors drinking deeply while Vegeta rolled his eyes at their enthusiasm. Before we start planning suicide missions, Steve interrupted with command authority, we need to address more immediate concerns. Goku, Vegeta, you're powerful, but you don't know this universe's rules, factions, or threats. We need to bring you up to speed on what you're dealing with. Agreed, Vegeta said. Gogeta's memories give us framework, but actual experience will be necessary. What do you suggest? Tony manipulated his holographic displays, pulling up a comprehensive threat matrix. Let's start with power classifications. In our universe, we categorize threats by scale, street level, enhanced, superhuman, alpha, omega, and cosmic. Street level is your muggers and normal criminals. Enhanced are individuals with minor abilities, think moderate super strength, or basic energy projection. Superhuman includes heavy hitters like Captain America, Black Widow with enhancements, skilled fighters with tactical advantages. Alpha level, Steve took over, includes beings like Thor, Hulk, Captain Marvel, individuals who can affect battlefield outcomes against major threats. Omega level is reserved for reality manipulators, beings who can reshape existence, Scarlet Witch, Professor X at full power, Phoenix Force hosts. And cosmic level? Goku asked, genuinely curious. Entities that operate on universal or multiversal scale, Strange explained. The living tribunal, who maintains balance across all realities. Eternity, who is literally the universe made conscious. Galactus, the devourer of worlds. The Celestials, who judge entire civilizations and possess power to reshape galaxies. Vegeta's expression had grown progressively more focused. And where do we rank in this classification? Based on Gogeta's demonstration? Solidly cosmic adjacent, Tony said. You individually register as high alpha, potentially omega depending on transformation access. Fused as Gogeta, you hit low cosmic. That's rare. And terrifying. Good, Vegeta said simply. What threats should we prioritize? Strange projection shifted, highlighting several active concerns. Most immediate, Kong will return, likely with better preparations. Medium term, we're tracking increased activity. From AAM, advanced idea mechanics. A terrorist science organization. Long term, mystical disturbances. Suggest something is disrupting. The balance between dimensions could be related to your arrival, could be independent threat. Then we train, Goku declared, finishing his 15th plate. We learn your universe's rules, meet your other heroes, understand the threats. And when Kong comes back, we'll be ready with strategies he hasn't seen because they're from our universe's combat philosophy. Actually, Tony said slowly, an idea forming, that might work. Goku, you mentioned teaching key control earlier. What if we approach this as a knowledge exchange? You teach us your universe's power system. We teach you our universe's tactical frameworks and threat profiles. I'm listening, Steve said. Think about it. We've relied on the same power sources for years: super soldier serum, gamma radiation, technological enhancement, mystical artifacts. But Ki is fundamentally different. It's internal energy cultivation that anyone can theoretically learn. If even a fraction of our enhanced individuals could access key techniques, our combat effectiveness would increase exponentially. Vegeta snorted. It took Goku years to master basic key control under trained masters. Your enhanced humans would require decades to achieve combat applicable proficiency. Unless we accelerate the training, Strange interjected thoughtfully. The Kamartaj has techniques for compressed learning, magical meditation that allows students to experience years of training in days of real time. Combined with Scion instruction methodology, we might be able to create a functional, key-enhanced combat force within months instead of decades. You want to create a mystically enhanced, key-wielding special operations team, Steve summarized. That's ambitious, possibly reckless, but tactically sound, Vegeta admitted grudgingly. In our universe, Earth became a relevant power because even normal humans could achieve basic key manipulation for flight, energy sensing, and defensive barriers. Your enhanced humans already have superior baseline capabilities, adding. Key control would make them legitimately dangerous to cosmic threats. Thor leaned back, considering. The Asgardian warriors trained for centuries to master our combat arts. If this key can be taught to Midgardians in mere months, it would be a revolution in Earth's defensive capabilities. It's also risky, Wong added from strange projection background. Introducing a foreign power system to individuals who already possess enhanced abilities could create unforeseen interactions. Super soldier serum plus key control, gamma radiation mutated cells attempting energy manipulation. The variables are concerning. Then we start small, Steve decided. Controlled testing with volunteers who understand the risks. Goku, Vegeta, would you be willing to attempt training a pilot group? Maybe 5 or 6 individuals with different enhancement types to see how he integrates with existing abilities. Goku's enthusiasm was immediate. Absolutely. Teaching is fun, and I'd love to see how your enhancements interact with key cultivation. In our universe, different species and races have varying aptitudes. Namekians excel at regeneration techniques. Yardrats master instant transmission. Scions specialize in transformation. Your enhanced humans might develop entirely unique key applications. Kakarot gets excited about teaching like normal people get. Excited about vacation. Vegeta muttered, but his expression showed consideration rather than dismissal. Fine, I'll participate, but I'm focusing on tactical applications, combat efficiency, energy manipulation for weapons enhancement, sensory development for threat detection. Let Kakarot handle the enthusiasm and basic fundamentals. Deal. Tony extended his hand, which Vegeta shook with surprising firmness. Friday, start compiling a list of candidates. Priority to individuals with existing combat experience, enhanced capabilities, and psychological profiles indicating discipline and control. We're not teaching key manipulation to anyone who might abuse it. Generating list now, boss. Initial candidates include Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Clint Barton, Natasha Romanoff. Wait, Goku interrupted. Natasha? I remember Gogeta sensed her signature in the city. She's incredibly skilled, but her power level is basically human baseline. Can normal humans really learn key control? Master Roshi was human, Vegeta pointed out. Krillin is human. Tien is technically human. Even Yamcha managed basic key techniques. And he's useless. Yamcha is not useless. He's just outscaled. He got killed by a Cyberman. That was one time. It was embarrassing enough that once is sufficient. Steve cleared his throat loudly. Gentlemen, focus. The point is that non-enhanced humans can learn key control in your universe. With sufficient training and discipline, yes, Vegeta confirmed. They'll never achieve Scion power levels, but they can master flight, energy sensing, basic energy projection, and defensive techniques. For your non-enhanced operatives like this Natasha, learning key would dramatically increase survival rates and combat effectiveness. Then she's definitely on the list, Steve said firmly. Anyone else we should consider? Peter Parker, Tony said immediately. Spider-Man, enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes from radioactive spider bite. Already has incredible combat instincts. If we could add key sensing to his spider sense and energy projection to his web shooters. He trailed off, clearly running calculations. The young one with the arachnid abilities? Thor asked. Yes, he would benefit greatly. His heart is pure and his dedication absolute. Strange projection nodded. I'll add Stephen Rogers. Oh wait, that's you, Captain. My apologies, I meant. We get it, Steve said. What about you, Strange? You're already manipulating mystical energy. Would key training enhance your capabilities? Or create conflicts? With your magical framework? The Sorcerer Supreme considered carefully. In theory, key as described is life force energy, while magic draws from dimensional power sources. They're complementary rather than contradictory. Wong and I could serve as test cases for how magical practitioners integrate key techniques. Add Wanda Maximoff if we can locate her, Tony suggested. Scarlet Witch. Reality manipulation through chaos magic. If anyone's going to have weird interactions between powers, it'll be her. Might as well study it under controlled conditions. She's in isolation, processing grief, Steve said quietly. We should respect that. Agreed. Maybe later, if she's willing. Goku had been listening intently, his combat experience translating to tactical thinking. You know what might help? If we demonstrated key abilities to your pilot group. Show them what's possible when you master energy control. In our universe, seeing Master Roshi destroy the moon or watching Goku fight motivated students more than any lecture. You destroyed the moon? Tony's voice climbed an octave. Master Roshi did. And it was an accident. Well, not an accident. He was stopping Goku's great ape transformation. But the moon came back eventually through Dragon Balls, so. Your universe is insane, Tony declared. You have a talking raccoon with a gun and a living tree, Vegeta countered. We're aware of the Guardians of the Galaxy from Gogeta's dimensional sensing during arrival. Don't lecture us about insanity. Fair point. The common room doors opened, and a woman entered. Red hair, controlled movements, eyes that assessed threats with professional precision. Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, moved with the grace of someone who'd survived encounters. That would have killed lesser operatives 100 times over. I heard we have guests, she said, her Russian accent subtle but present. Alien warriors who can destroy planets and eat their body weight in cheeseburgers. Tony's expense reports are going to be interesting this quarter. Goku waved enthusiastically. Hi, I'm Goku. This is Vegeta. We're scions from another universe, and we're going to teach everyone key control so you can fly and shoot energy blasts and sense bad guys from really far away. Natasha didn't blink. Naturally, because that's exactly the kind of Tuesday we have around here. She turned to Steve. What's the actual situation, Cap? Steve provided a concise briefing. Dimensional breach, Kang's manipulation, Gogeta's tactical combat, the current alliance, and the proposed training program. Natasha absorbed it all with the efficiency of a master spy processing intelligence data. So you want me to learn space? Alien meditation techniques that will let me fly and shoot lasers, she summarized. Energy projection, technically, Vegeta corrected. And yes, your baseline human physiology is a limitation in cosmic-level conflicts. Key training would partially address that limitation. Partially, you're still human. There are limits to what training can overcome, but you'd be far more effective than you are currently. Natasha's smile was sharp. I like him. He's honest about my chances of survival. She looked at Goku. And you're the optimistic one who thinks anyone can become strong with enough training. Everyone has potential, Goku said earnestly. Some people start with higher power levels, but training and determination matter more than genetics. Well, except for science because we get stronger every time we almost die. But that's special biology. He's growing on me too, Natasha decided. When do we start? Eager, Vegeta observed approvingly. Tomorrow morning, 0600 hours. Rooftop training area, where clothing that allows unrestricted movement and prepare for the most physically demanding experience of your enhanced human life. I've trained with Captain America, fought alien invaders, and been through Red Room conditioning, Natasha said coolly. I think I can handle space alien boot camp. Vegeta's smirk was anticipatory. We'll see, Thor laughed. This shall be entertaining. I volunteer to observe, purely for educational purposes, of course. Of course, Steve said dryly. Tony, what about facilities? We'll need space for key training that can handle potential property damage. Already on it. Fridays converting the sublevel training facility into what I'm calling the key dojo. Reinforced walls, energy dampening fields, medical support on standby, and enough sensors to document everything for science. Should be ready by morning. Efficient, Vegeta acknowledged. We try. Tony's expression turned more serious. But while we're planning training programs, we should address the elephant in the room. Goku, Vegeta, you're both incredibly powerful and seemingly committed to helping us. But you're also completely unknown quantities. No offense, but trusting you entirely would be naive. None taken, Goku said. If someone this strong showed up on our Earth, King Kai would probably want us to be careful too. What do you need to feel more comfortable? Steve appreciated the directness. Honesty about your capabilities, your limits, your transformation states, and what they require. If we're fighting alongside you, we need to know what you can do and what might go wrong. Fair. Vegeta stood, moving to the center of the room. I'll demonstrate. Watch carefully. I'm only doing this once. His aura erupted, golden energy cascading upward like reversed gravity. Hair turned blonde, eyes shifted teal, and the air itself compressed from the pressure of power unleashed. Super Saiyan, the legendary transformation that multiplied base power 50-fold. This is Super Saiyan, Vegeta explained, his voice carrying harmonic resonance. First transformation, significant power increase, moderate energy drain. Can maintain for hours if necessary. The energy intensified. Muscles expanded. Electrical discharge crackled through the golden aura. Hair became more pronounced. Super Saiyan second grade. More power, slightly less speed. Tactical trade-off. Then he shifted again, body. Returning to leaner state, but power. Continuing to climb. Super Saiyan 2. Double the previous. Forms power, refined control, can maintain for extended combat. And beyond that, Thor asked, genuinely fascinated. Super Saiyan 3, Vegeta said, though he didn't transform. Massive power increase, extreme energy drain, impractical for extended combat. Gogeta used it because fusion provides sufficient energy reserves. I avoid it unless absolutely necessary. He powered down, golden aura fading. There are also Super Saiyan, God forms, divine transformations that operate on different principles. Blue, which combines Super Saiyan with God Ki. Evolution, which is my personal variant that emphasizes offense and damage conversion. But those require specific circumstances to access reliably. And Goku? Steve asked. Goku scratched his head sheepishly. I've got the same forms Vegeta mentioned. Plus Ultra Instinct, which lets my body move and react without conscious thought. Perfect defense and offense. But it's really hard to maintain and requires specific mental state. I can show you tomorrow during training demonstrations. So you both have multiple power levels that multiply your strength exponentially. Tony was taking notes, his engineer's mind cataloging capabilities. Any weaknesses we should know about? Energy depletion, Vegeta said bluntly. Transformations consume. Ki. Extended combat in advanced forms will eventually exhaust us. We also require significant caloric intake to maintain energy reserves, as you've observed. And emotionally, Natasha's question was pointed. Combat effectiveness can be compromised by psychological factors. Do either of you have triggers we should be aware of? Goku and Vegeta exchanged glances, a conversation and looks that spoke of shared history. I have anger issues, Vegeta admitted with visible difficulty. Pride-driven decision-making. Tendency to underestimate opponents I consider beneath me, which has historically led to tactical errors. I get distracted by strong opponents, Goku added. Sometimes, I'll extend fights to see what someone can do rather than ending them efficiently. And I've been told, I'm naive about people's true intentions. I tend to see the good in everyone, which enemies have exploited. The honesty was unexpected and refreshing. Steve nodded approvingly. Awareness of your weaknesses is the first step toward compensating for them. We all have blind spots. Tony's is arrogance. Hey, Thor's is grief. Mine is stubbornness. Natasha's is trust. Acknowledging them lets us cover for each other. A team, Goku said, understanding dawning. You fight as a unit, compensating for individual weaknesses through coordinated strength. Exactly. We do that too, Vegeta said. Just with fewer people and more property damage. Then we'll fit right in, Tony said. Welcome to the Avengers, Science. Try not to break too much of my tower. An alarm suddenly blared, Friday's priority. Alert system activating across all displays. Boss, we have a situation. Multiple bogies incoming from the upper atmosphere. Trajectories suggest deliberate approach rather than random orbital debris. Energy signatures are not matching any known classification. Tony's faceplate snapped into place. Define not matching any known classification. They're organic, boss. Living beings. Traveling through space without life support. At least 30 signatures, possibly more. ETA 3 minutes. Thor was already moving toward the window, Stormbreaker materializing in his grip. Invaders? Unknown. But they're heading directly for Manhattan. Goku's expression shifted, excitement warring with concern. Can you show me their energy signatures? Maybe I can identify what they are. Friday projected the readings. Goku studied them for exactly 2 seconds before his face went pale. Oh no. Oh no what? Steve demanded, shield already in hand. Those are psions, Goku said quietly. Not from my universe. The energy frequency is different, but unmistakably psion. Which means? He looked at Vegeta, who had gone very still. Which means, Vegeta finished, his voice deadly calm. That Kang's dimensional breach didn't just pull us through. It created a weak point that something else used to cross over. Something else being? Tony pressed. Other versions of us, Vegeta said. From universes where psions never learned heroism. Where Frisia's conditioning remained absolute. Where the warrior race conquered Earth instead of protecting it. You're saying, Natasha's hand moved to her weapons. We're about to be invaded by evil versions of you. Not evil, Goku corrected softly. Just what we would have been if things had gone differently. If we'd never learned to care about people beyond their combat value. The alarm intensified. 1 minute to impact. Can we talk to them? Steve asked. Negotiate. Psions under Frisia's command don't negotiate, Vegeta said flatly. They conquer, destroy, and sell planets to the highest bidder. If they've come through, it's because they detected our energy, signatures, and want to either recruit us or eliminate us as threats. Or both, Goku added. Conquering psions played dirty. Thor's lightning crackled. Then we fight. Against 30 psions? Tony's voice carried stress. We just watched 2 of you fight Kong. 30 is manageable, Vegeta interrupted, his aura beginning to glow. Most psions under Frisia were mid-level warriors, strong by your standards. Manageable by ours. The problem is if any of them are elite class or above. Elite class meaning? Steve was already coordinating through comms, calling in available Avengers. Meaning stronger than base form Goku or myself, Vegeta clarified. Capable of planetary destruction if properly motivated. Fantastic, Tony muttered. The first impact crater appeared in Central Park. Exactly where Kang's temporal sphere had been hours earlier. Then another. Then 10 more. Kinetic strikes from beings treating atmospheric entry as a combat entrance. From those craters rose warriors, humanoid figures in armor bearing insignias. Goku recognized with 6 certainty. The Frisia Force. Planet Trade Organization. Conquerors who had terrorized galaxies before Frisia's death. And leading them, standing atop the largest crater with arms crossed and expression contemptuous, was a psion woman in commander's armor. Her power level was massive, easily high alpha by Marvel standards. Possibly low omega. Well, she called out, her voice carrying across the distance with key enhancement. Look what we have here. 2 traders wearing civilian clothes, playing house with weakling apes. Her smile was cruel. King Vegeta would be ashamed, Prince. And as for you, Kakarot, running from your heritage, befriending the species we were meant to conquer. Vegeta's growl was bestial. Who are you? Commander Lika of the Psion Elite Corps. And I'm here to bring you both home. Her aura exploded outward. Crimson energy that made the park's grass wither. Dead or alive. Your choice. The standoff lasted exactly 3 seconds before Goku moved. He didn't power up, didn't announce his intentions, didn't give any of the dramatic preamble that usually preceded his battles. He simply vanished from Avengers Tower and reappeared in Central Park directly in front of Commander Lika. his hand catching her fist mid-strike before she'd even registered his arrival. "Listen," Goku said, his voice carrying that dangerous calm that people who didn't know him often mistook for weakness. "I don't know what universe you're from, but in mine, Frisia's dead. The Planet Trade Organization is dismantled, and Scions have a chance to be more than just conquerors." Lika's eyes widened fractionally, not from fear, but from the shock of encountering resistance. From someone she'd been told was a low-class warrior. Then her surprise morphed into rage. "How dare you touch a commander with your inferior?" Goku squeezed. The sound of armor plating cracking echoed across the park. Lika gasped, yanking her hand back and cradling it against her chest. 3 of her fingers were bent at angles that suggested fractures, and her gauntlet had compression damage that would require complete replacement. "I'm going to say this once," Goku continued, his tone still conversational, but his eyes absolutely serious. "Take your soldiers and go back through whatever breach you came from. We don't want to fight you, but we will protect this planet." You? You broke my hand." Lika breathed, disbelief warring with outrage. "A low class broke a commander's hand. That's impossible. Your power level can't be more than." She activated her scouter, the device flickering to life and immediately beginning to calculate. The numbers climbed, and kept climbing until the scouter sparked, overloaded, and exploded in a shower of circuits and glass. "Scouters don't work on us anymore," Vegeta said, touching down beside Goku with instant transmission. Behind him, the Avengers were mobilizing, Tony's armor streaking across the sky, Thor riding lightning, Captain America coordinating ground forces through comms. "We're far beyond anything Frisia Force technology can measure." The 30 Scion warriors surrounding them shifted nervously. They'd come expecting easy conquest or recruitment of wayward Scions. Instead, they'd encountered 2 warriors who radiated power that made their combat instincts scream warnings. "This doesn't make sense," Lika snarled, nursing her injured hand. "The dimensional analysis said you were recently arrived. Off balance, separated from your power base. You should be vulnerable." "Dimensional analysis?" Tony's voice cut through as he landed. Repulsors charged and aimed at the nearest group of Scions. "Someone's been feeding you intelligence. Let me guess, tall guy, blue and purple armor, holographic face. Really into time travel." Lika's expression confirmed everything before she could mask it. "Calm," Steve said grimly, his shield raised as shield forces established perimeter positions. "He's playing dimensional chess. Couldn't capture them directly, so he's sending proxies." "Clever bastard," Vegeta admitted with grudging respect. "Use our own species against us. Warriors who understand Scion combat doctrine and psychology. If we'd been alone, disoriented, maybe just arrived, this might have worked. But we're not alone," Goku said, gesturing to the assembled Avengers. "And we've had time to make allies. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to explain exactly how Khan contacted you and what he promised in exchange for attacking us. Then we're going to send you home with a message that Earth is under protection." "Protection?" Liko laughed, a harsh sound that carried contempt. "From who? These weaklings?" She gestured dismissively at the Avengers. "I can sense their power levels. The only one even approaching Scion warrior class is the blonde god with the hammer, and even he wouldn't survive more than a few minutes against elite combat doctrine." Thor's eyes crackled with lightning. "Wouldst thou care to test that hypothesis, Invader?" "Thor, don't," Steve started, but the god of thunder was already moving. Stormbreaker swung in an arc that split the air itself, divine lightning channeling through the enchanted weapon with enough force to vaporize lesser beings. Lika caught the axe blade between her palms, her crimson aura flaring to absorb the impact. For a moment, they stood locked, Asgardian divine power versus Scion warrior might. Then Lika began pushing back. Thor's boots dug furrows in the ground as he was forced backward, his eyes widening as he realized the Scion commander was actually matching his strength. Not surpassing it, but matching it, which should have been impossible for someone who wasn't wielding divine artifacts or cosmic power sources. "Impressive," Lika acknowledged. "You have legitimate warrior strength. Perhaps you're worth conquering rather than simply exterminating." "Perhaps," Thor growled. "You should consider that I am not fighting alone." Captain America's shield ricocheted off. Lika's temple, Not hard enough to cause serious injury through her. Ki enhanced durability, but sufficient to break her concentration. Thor seized the opening, calling down a lightning strike that would have leveled buildings. Lika took it full force, her armor absorbing most of the energy but the overflow still, causing visible damage. She staggered back, smoking slightly, and her expression shifted from contemptuous to considering. You coordinate well, she admitted. The god provides raw power. The soldier provides tactical precision. Efficient. She glanced at her assembled troops. Formation Delta 7. Demonstrate why Scion combat. Doctrine remains superior to scattered individual effort. The 30 warriors moved instantly, their coordination speaking to extensive training. They arranged themselves in a three-dimensional combat matrix, 10 on the ground, 10 in midair, 10 providing high-altitude support. Each position was calculated to provide overlapping fire patterns and mutual defense. Oh, that's bad, Tony said, his sensors analyzing the formation. Friday, tell me you're seeing this. Confirmed. Boss, their positioning creates interlocking fields of fire with minimal friendly fire risk. Any attack on one position exposes the attacker to counterstrikes from at least 3 others. It's textbook small unit tactics adapted for three-dimensional aerial combat. We trained for planetary assault missions. One of the Scion warriors called out. A male with a scarred face and major's insignia. 3 decades of combat experience across 40 conquered worlds. You're strong individually, but combat isn't about individual strength. It's about tactical superiority. Vegeta sighed. They're not wrong. Frisia Force Doctrine emphasizes coordinated assault patterns, specifically designed to overwhelm stronger individual opponents through numerical advantage and positioning. So how do we break it? Steve asked, his tactical mind already working through scenarios. Normally, you don't. You either withdraw or you die. Vegeta's smirk was sharp. But we're not normal Scions anymore. He powered up to Super Scion in a burst of golden light that made several of the assault force flinch. Goku followed instantly, both warriors now radiating enough power to make the air shimmer with heat distortion. Here's your lesson in why we left Frisia's service, Vegeta announced, his voice carrying across the park. Individual strength matters more than tactics when the power differential is large enough. Formation Delta 7 is designed to handle opponents up to twice the standard Scion power level. We're operating at 50 times that baseline. Bluff, Lika declared, though her voice carried uncertainty. No Scion can achieve that level without. Vegeta moved. He wasn't as fast as Gogeta had been, but he was still moving at speeds that made conventional tracking impossible. He appeared in the center of the aerial formation, grabbed 2 warriors by their armor, and hurled them into 3 others with enough force to break bones and crater them into the ground. The entire maneuver took less than 2 seconds. Without transformation, Vegeta finished, hovering where 5 warriors had been. We achieved it, multiple times, through training, combat, and pushing past every limit our biology imposed. Goku was moving through the ground formation with similar efficiency, but his approach was different. Where Vegeta brutalized, Goku disabled. Nerve strikes that temporarily paralyzed. Pressure point applications that shut down ki flow. Precise impacts that knocked warriors unconscious without permanent injury. I don't want to hurt you, Goku said as he caught a female Scion's punch, redirected her momentum, and applied a sleeper hold that had her unconscious in 4 seconds. You're just following orders. But those orders are wrong, and we're going to prove it. The remaining warriors were regrouping. Their formation shattered, but their training holding. Lika barked orders, and the assault force shifted to guerrilla tactics, hit and run. Attacks designed to wear down stronger opponents through attrition. Clever, Tony observed, his sensors tracking energy signatures. They've adapted, no longer trying to hold position, just harassing and retreating. That's actually. A Scion warrior appeared directly in front of him, fist drawn back for a strike that would have punched through his armor's chest plate. Tony's repulsors fired point blank, but the warrior tanked the blast and kept coming. Then Thor's hammer took the Scion in the ribs, sending him spinning through the air. I have your back, Stark. Appreciate it. Tony switched to area denial protocols, his armor deploying dozens of Micro-missiles that created a barrier of explosions forcing the Scions back. But we're not equipped for this. These guys can fly, move faster than my targeting systems can track, and tank firepower that should vaporize them. They're mid-tier by our standards, Vegeta called out, currently grappling with 3 warriors simultaneously, which unfortunately makes them alpha level by yours. You need to hang back and provide tactical support. Let us handle direct engagement. I hate hanging back, Tony muttered, but he gained altitude and shifted to coordinator role. Friday, overlay tactical. Data for Rogers and Thor. They need to know where attacks are coming from before they arrive. On the ground, Captain America was demonstrating why he'd led the Avengers for years. His shield work was masterful, blocking energy blasts, ricocheting off multiple attackers, returning to his hand with perfect timing. But he was clearly struggling against opponents whose basic physical capabilities exceeded his enhanced human limits. A Scion warrior landed a kick that sent Steve flying 20 feet, his shield spinning away. The warrior pursued, energy charging in his palm for a finishing blast. And Natasha Romanoff appeared from behind cover, her modified pistols firing rounds that exploded into electrical discharge nets on impact. The Scion warrior convulsed as thousands of volts coursed through his nervous system, dropping to his knees. Enhanced shock rounds, Natasha said, helping Steve to his feet. Borrowed them from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Enhanced Threat Response Unit. Figured we'd need them. Good call. Steve retrieved his shield, noting that 4 more Scions were approaching their position. But we're outnumbered and outmatched physically. We need to change the tactical situation. Already on it. Tony's voice came through comms. Strange, you still monitoring? Dr. Strange's portal opened directly onto the battlefield, the Sorcerer Supreme stepping through with Wong at his side. His hands were already weaving through complex patterns, golden energy spiraling into containment formations. Apologies for the delay, Strange said calmly as he erected a barrier that caught 3 energy blasts meant for civilian buildings. I was establishing dimensional anchors to prevent these invaders from simply teleporting away when they realize they're losing. Teleporting? Lika's voice carried alarm. You have dimensional manipulation capabilities. We have a Sorcerer Supreme, Steve said. Among other advantages you didn't account for. Wong's hands moved through rapid gestures, and suddenly gravity intensified around half the Scion assault force. Warriors who'd been hovering dropped to the ground, struggling against weight that had increased tenfold. Gravitational binding, Wong explained. Mystical rather than technological. Your key-enhanced durability helps you resist, but you're still subject to fundamental forces when properly applied. Lika snarled, her power surging, as she broke free of the gravitational effect through sheer force. Sorcery? You dare use mystical tricks against Scion warriors? We dare use every advantage available, Strange replied, his hands continuing their intricate patterns. Chains of golden light materialized, wrapping around the nearest Scions and binding them despite their struggles. Your people are invaders attacking a planet under my protection. I will employ whatever methods prove necessary. The battle was shifting. What had started as an overwhelming assault by 30 trained Scion warriors was becoming a coordinated defense by Earth's heroes using terrain, knowledge, tactical coordination, and diverse power sets to counter superior individual combat capabilities. Goku noticed the shift and smiled. See, this is what you're missing. Working together, compensating for each other's weaknesses. We learned this from Earth, and it made us stronger than we ever were as solo fighters. Sentiment, Lika spat, though she was now fighting defensively, her injured hand limiting her combat effectiveness. Weakness disguised as virtue. Scions are meant to be warriors, not what? Vegeta appeared behind her, his hand on her shoulder in a grip that promised she wasn't escaping. Not people, not capable of caring about something beyond conquest. I spent decades believing that. It made me powerful but hollow. Goku showed me there was another way. I just wanted to protect my friends, Goku said, landing beside them. That's all. And it turned out that protecting people you care about makes you stronger than fighting for conquest ever could. Lika looked around at her assembled force. Half were unconscious or restrained by strange magic. The rest were struggling against coordinated Avengers tactics that exploited every momentary advantage. Her elite assault force, trained for planetary conquest, was being systematically dismantled by a mix of tactical brilliance and impossible teamwork. "This doesn't make sense," she said quietly. "We had superior numbers, combat experience, established doctrine. How are we losing to scattered defenders who've never fought as a unified force?" "Because they have fought as a unified force," Vegeta corrected. "Against Thanos, against Ultron, against threats that would have destroyed planets if they'd failed. They've learned to trust each other implicitly, and that trust makes them far more dangerous than raw power alone." Tony landed nearby, his armor's weapon still active, but not aimed directly at Lika. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to order your people to stand down. We're going to provide medical attention for anyone who needs it. Then we're going to have a conversation about who sent you here and what they promised. And if I refuse, then Goku and Vegeta stop holding back," Steve said bluntly. "And this goes from controlled engagement to overwhelming force demonstration. You've seen what they can do while being careful not to kill anyone. Do you really want to see what happens when they stop being careful?" Lika looked at the two scions, Goku with his earnest expression and ready smile, Vegeta with his cold tactical assessment and barely contained violence. Both were clearly operating well below their maximum capabilities, restraining themselves to avoid unnecessary casualties. The smart play was obvious. "Stand down," she ordered, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "Assault force, disengage and assume surrender positions. This engagement is suspended pending command consultation." The remaining Scion warriors obeyed instantly, their discipline evident even in defeat. They landed, powered down their auras, and assumed the standardized Frisia Force surrender posture, kneeling, hands behind heads, eyes forward. "Efficient," Natasha observed. "Military conditioning. 3 decades of service," the scarred major said from his kneeling position. "We follow orders. Commander ordered stand down, we stand down." Medical teams were already moving in. Shield medics, working alongside personnel who'd been briefed on alien physiology. The Scions accepted treatment with professional courtesy, their warrior culture, apparently including respect for medical personnel, even from enemy forces. Strange maintained his dimensional anchors, ensuring no one was escaping through unexpected portals. Wong coordinated with S.H.I.E.L.D. to establish a secure perimeter. Thor stood guard over the prisoners with Stormbreaker ready, while Tony's armor ran continuous scans for hidden threats or surprise reinforcements. Goku powered down, his blonde hair fading back to black. "Commander Lika, can we talk now? Without the fighting." She eyed him warily. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How Kong contacted you, what he promised, what your universe is like. Because I'm guessing you didn't just randomly decide to invade Earth. Someone convinced you this was a good idea." Lika was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 3 weeks ago by our timeline, a being calling himself Kong the Conqueror made contact with our command structure. He claimed to have dimensional breach technology that could access realities where Earth existed but Frisia's empire had fallen. Said there were weak, undefended versions of Earth that could be conquered easily. And you believed him? Vegeta's tone was skeptical. He provided proof. Showed us dimensional scans of multiple Earths, power level readings, tactical assessments. Everything indicated easy conquest with minimal resistance. Lika's expression darkened. He specifically highlighted this Earth, said it had recently suffered a catastrophic population reduction and its defenders were weakened, scattered, and vulnerable. "The snap," Steve said quietly. "Thanos' genocide. Kong was using our grief and rebuilding period as bait." He also mentioned something else, Lika continued. Said 2 renegade scions had betrayed their heritage and were protecting this Earth. Offered bonus compensation if we could capture or eliminate you as a secondary objective. So we were the primary target, Goku realized. Earth was just the incentive. He wanted you to come here specifically to fight us. "Why?" Tony demanded. "What does Kong gain from orchestrating a Scion civil war in our dimension?" Strange's expression was grim. "Data collection. He couldn't successfully capture Gogeta directly, so he's using proxy forces to test Scion combat capabilities, transformation access, tactical responses, and power thresholds. Every second of this battle was being recorded and analyzed. He's building a database, Vegeta said coldly. Learning our patterns, documenting our abilities, constructing counter-strategies. Next time he engages us, he'll know exactly what we can do. Not exactly, Wong interjected. If Doctor Strange's dimensional anchors are functioning correctly, all outgoing dimensional transmissions should be blocked. Kong can't receive real-time data if the information can't cross dimensional barriers. But he'll know the battle happened, Tony pointed out, and that his proxy force failed. He'll adjust his strategies accordingly. Then we adjust ours, Steve said with quiet confidence. He's not the only one learning from this engagement. We've seen how Scion combat doctrine works, how to counter aerial formations, how to coordinate against individually superior opponents. This was a learning experience for both sides. Goku nodded enthusiastically. Plus, now we have potential allies. Commander Lika, what if instead of conquering Earth, you and your warriors helped us defend it? You've seen what we're up against: time-traveling warlords, cosmic threats, beings who collect infinity stones. We could use experienced soldiers who understand large-scale combat. You want us to betray our contract with Kong? Lika's voice carried disbelief. I want you to consider that maybe there's more to being Scion than just following orders and conquering planets, Goku said earnestly. In my universe, when planet Vegeta was destroyed, most Scions died. The few who survived had a choice: continue being what Frieza made us, or become something better. I chose better. Vegeta chose better. You could too. We don't even know if we can return to our universe, the scarred Major pointed out. Kang's dimensional breach might have been one way. We could be stranded here. Then you're in the same situation we are, Vegeta said. Stuck in an unfamiliar universe, forced to adapt or die. The question is whether you adapt by continuing to be conquerors, or whether you learn to be something more effective. Lika looked at her assembled warriors, loyal, disciplined, and currently processing the fact that they'd been comprehensively outfought by a combination of two renegade Scions and primitive Earth defenders who should have been easy targets. I need time to consider, she said finally. This isn't a decision I can make alone. My warriors deserve input on whether we abandon our commission and align with former targets. Fair enough, Steve extended his hand. We'll provide temporary housing and resources while you deliberate. But understand, if you decide to continue hostile actions against Earth or its defenders, we will respond with appropriate force. Lika studied the extended hand, then clasped it firmly. Understood. We request formal parley terms. 72 hours to consult with our troops and reach consensus. During that time, no hostile actions from either side. Agreed. Steve's grip was firm. Tony, can you arrange accommodations? Already on it. Friday's identifying a shield facility that can house 30 Scions with enhanced security but comfortable amenities. Should be ready within the hour. As arrangements were being made and the battlefield secured, Goku approached Vegeta quietly. Do you think they'll join us? Vegeta watched Lika organizing her troops, her command presence evident even in defeat. 50-50. She's a professional soldier, not a mindless brute. She'll make the decision that maximizes her warriors' survival and effectiveness. If we can demonstrate that alliance offers more than conquest, she'll consider it seriously. And if she doesn't, then we'll have 30 enemy combatants to neutralize if they attempt further aggression. Either way, we've learned their capabilities and established that Earth has sufficient defensive capacity to repel Scion assault forces. Vegeta's expression was thoughtful. Though I'm more concerned about Kang's long-term strategy. Using Scions as pawns suggests he's planning something larger. Agreed. Strange materialized beside them, his projection having maintained monitoring throughout the engagement. This was a probing action, not a serious conquest attempt. He's testing variables, documenting responses, building predictive models. The real assault will come when he believes he has sufficient data to guarantee victory. Then we need to be ready, Goku said simply. Which means training your enhanced humans in key control, establishing coordinated response protocols, and making sure everyone knows how to fight as a team. Tomorrow morning, 0600 hours, Vegeta confirmed. Rooftop training facility. Natasha and whoever else Stark selects for the pilot program. We'll begin with basic key sensing and proceed from there. I'm looking forward to it, Natasha said. having approached silently enough that even the Scions hadn't detected her until she spoke. Though I have one question, which is, Vegeta asked, you both held back significantly during that engagement. I could tell from your body language and energy expenditure. Why? If you'd gone full power immediately, you could have ended the fight in seconds. Goku smiled. Because overwhelming force isn't always the right answer. If we'd crushed them instantly, they'd just see us as monsters to fear. By fighting tactically and showing restraint, we demonstrated that strength can be controlled and that there's value in minimizing casualties. Plus, Vegeta added pragmatically, executing 30 trained Scion warriors would have been wasteful when we could potentially recruit them as allies. Resources should be exploited when possible, not destroyed unnecessarily. You're more alike than you pretend, Natasha observed. We're not. Both Scions started simultaneously, then stopped, glaring at each other. Natasha's smile was knowing. See you tomorrow morning, teachers. Try not to kill each other before then. As she walked away, Goku and Vegeta stood in the aftermath of battle, watching S.H.I.E.L.D. secure the area and the Avengers coordinate post-engagement protocols. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that reminded Goku of Namek's final moments. Do you think we can stay here? Goku asked quietly. Build lives in this universe if we can't get home. Vegeta considered for a long moment. Bulma would kill me if I didn't return. Trunks needs his father. But he looked around at the Earth's defenders working together with professional efficiency. If we're trapped, this isn't the worst universe to be stuck in. They understand what's at stake. They've faced apocalypse and rebuilt. There's warrior spirit here, even among the humans. Yeah, Goku agreed. I think we could work with these guys. Don't get too comfortable, Kakarot. Strange will figure out how to send us home eventually. Maybe. But until then, Goku grinned. We get to explore a whole new universe, train new students, and fight enemies we've never encountered before. That's kind of exciting. You're impossible. Thanks. Vegeta didn't correct him about the compliment. They'd been through too much together for Goku's optimism to be anything but familiar at this point. The training facility beneath Avengers Tower had been transformed overnight, where there had once been conventional weight equipment and sparring mats. Tony's engineering team had installed reinforced titanium plating capable of withstanding impacts up to 500 tons per square inch, energy-dampening fields that could absorb exotic radiation, and sensor arrays dense enough to track objects moving at supersonic speeds. The ceiling had been raised 40 feet and reinforced with the same alloy used in Iron Man armor. Medical bays lined one wall, staffed with personnel briefed on treating enhanced physiology trauma. This is either the most expensive gym on Earth, Tony announced as he gave Goku and Vegeta the tour at 0530 hours, or the most elaborate way I've ever spent Wayne Enterprises' money after hacking their infrastructure budget. Either way, it's ready for superpowered martial arts training. You stole from Batman's budget? Goku asked, confused. Batman is DC Universe, Vegeta corrected with exasperation. Wrong reality entirely. He's making a joke about corporate espionage against competitors. Oh, Goku scratched his head. I'm still learning how your universe works. Clearly, Tony gestured to the assembled group waiting in the facilities center. Your students, gentlemen. Try not to kill them on day one. The paperwork would be extensive. Natasha Romanoff stood at the front, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes assessing the Scions with tactical precision. Behind her stood 5 others. Sam Wilson in his Falcon flight suit without the wings. Bucky Barnes looking uncomfortable but determined. A young man with brown hair and nervous energy who kept adjusting his jacket. A woman in tactical gear with an easy confidence that spoke of combat experience. And surprisingly, Dr. Strange himself. Small group, Vegeta observed. I expected more volunteers. We're starting with quality over quantity, Steve explained. Entering with Thor and a woman with short hair and cybernetic enhancements that Goku's key sense identified as extensive technological integration. This is Nebula. She's worked with the Guardians of the Galaxy and has experience with cosmic-level threats. Figured her perspective might be valuable. The blue cyborg lady, Goku said, then caught himself. Sorry, is that rude? I'm not great with Earth etiquette. I am blue and partially cybernetic, Nebula said flatly. Your observation is factually accurate. Whether it is rude is irrelevant to me. I like her, Vegeta declared. Practical and direct. The young man with nervous energy raised his hand like he was in school. Hi. I'm Peter. Peter Parker. Mr. Stark. Said you guys can teach people to fly and shoot energy from their hands. That's real, right? Not some elaborate prank. Spider-Man, Tony clarified. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, wall crawling, and what he calls spider sense, a precognitive danger awareness. If anyone's going to have weird synergies with key training, it's him. Goku's eyes lit up. Spider powers? That's so cool. Can you really climb on walls? Yeah. Peter suddenly seemed less nervous facing the alien. Warrior's genuine enthusiasm. And swing on webs and stuff. It's pretty neat. Extremely neat, Goku corrected. After training, you should show me. Can we focus? Vegeta's tone was sharp. We have limited time and significant curriculum to cover. Introductions complete. Let's establish baseline capabilities. He pointed at Natasha. You, center of the room. Everyone else against the wall. Natasha moved without hesitation, taking position in the facilities center. Vegeta circled her slowly, his eyes cataloging every detail, muscle definition, breathing pattern, stance distribution, subtle tells and posture that spoke of extensive combat conditioning. Standard human physiology, enhanced through training rather than biological modification, Vegeta assessed. Combat experience, extensive. Discipline, excellent. Power level by Scion standards, negligible. Power level by this universe's standards, sufficient for street-level threats. Inadequate for alpha-class opponents. He stopped in front of her. Hit me. Excuse me. Strike me with your full strength. I need to establish your offensive capacity. Natasha's expression suggested she thought this was a bad idea. But she moved anyway. A textbook perfect punch aimed at Vegeta's solar plexus. Her technique flawless and her follow-through demonstrating. Years of martial arts mastery. Her fist connected with Vegeta's chest. He didn't move. Didn't even shift his weight backward. Her knuckles impacted his GI, and it was like hitting reinforced steel. Again, Vegeta ordered. Different strike, maximum force. Natasha complied, flowing through a combination, jab, cross, hook, uppercut, knee strike, spinning kick. Each impact was perfectly executed. None of them moved Vegeta, even fractionally. Good technique, he acknowledged. Wasted on insufficient strength. Key training will address this. But understand, you will never achieve Scion-level physical power. Your species lacks our biological optimization for combat. What you will gain is force, multiplication through energy, manipulation, and enhanced sensory capacity for threat detection. I can work with that, Natasha said, flexing her hand. Hitting Vegeta had been like punching a mountain. Barnes, you're next. Bucky stepped forward, his metal arm gleaming in the facility's lighting. Vegeta's eyes narrowed as he studied the cybernetic enhancement. Interesting. Technological integration at biomechanical interface points. The metal arm operates through neural connection? At Bucky's nod, Vegeta continued. Demonstrate its capability. Bucky's metal fist struck Vegeta's chest with considerably more force than Natasha's attack. The sound was like a hammer hitting an anvil. Vegeta nodded approvingly.